Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's number one advocate show, Timeshare Solutions or Surrender, with our longtime wonderful superhero, Irene Parker. This is where we provide do it yourself solutions for victims of timeshares deceptive acts. We are on episode 21, and I'm so happy to say we have solved and provided so many positive solutions that I believe so much in what we're doing that we're going to be holding a protest tomorrow. I hope all of you join us. But everyone, help me welcome our superhero, Irene Parker.
Hi,
Irene,
Kim. It's
hi.
nice to be back. I don't know about the superhero
Neither do
part,
I.
but my superhero is Carl, who has been on 3 or 4 times. And this show is completely different from what we thought it was going to be. And our protest is completely different from what we thought it was going to be. Um, Carl was going to protest outside The Queen of Versailles Reigns Again, the stage play that we've talked about. You're going to play the clip a little bit later. And as I keep saying, as a former stockbroker, I have no problems with people accumulating great wealth. I began last week's show with the veteran, 24 years, served overseas, waiting for a lung transplant. He needs a security clearance at the Pentagon, and Westgate denied him a hardship release. And then we had on last week, and I was shocked that Andrew, who has served with the Air National Guard for 12 years, has actually left service because of his Westgate timeshare default and the effect that it could have on his security clearance. So we're changing tomorrow's protest to Carl had been threatened with a lawsuit if he were to protest. And I helped him by compiling 12 reports of people who have Westgate buyers. They don't know each other, and very detailed accounts of rent of agents pitching them to buy more points to rent to offset costs. And now both Wyndham and Blue Green are suspending accounts. So instead of protesting about the Queen of Versailles, we are going to be in support of our military. And things are getting pretty confusing pretty fast for us, Kim. But just since yesterday, when I got a call from an attorney saying we would really like you to be in Delaware on Monday to attend a very important hearing in Kirchner versus Wyndham. So the first person I called is Kim Calhoun. Kim, and I called Carl. I said, "Can you meet me in Delaware?" He says, "What time?"
And you know,
So
Irene, you're three times farther away than I am, and you're like I'm in, and then I'm like I'm in, and then somehow or another we worked it out, so we're traveling together.
and our board president, Sheila, that's been on she's going to attend, and my husband and her husband. So we have 5 bodies to show support. Now, before you play the Queen of Versailles, and I'm really hoping people will listen to last week's show about how Andrew, who is a young couple with a 6-year-old, were sold a 4-bedroom, very detailed account how they were supposed to rent to make money to offset their costs. So before we show, and you were going to hold a contest, whoever would design the best virtual poster would have it sold on Pod TV, and you were going to do a commemorative coffee cup if
Yeah, and
I
I'll even if they do a really good one, I'll even put the bill for them to have a mug. So if it looks, I'll put it on the mug, and if people want to buy it, that's great because the money will help go to things like this. But I'll send them a mug just for the good artwork. We'll take a
okay.
vote.
All right, so what we're going to do before we show the Queen of Versailles Reigns Again is all of our guests today experienced rental nightmares, which others have described as an inventory grab. So we're going to start, since we're going to be attending Kirchner versus Wyndham, let's first introduce Tom.
Well, did you want to play the Queen of Versailles real quick?
I'd like for our guests to join us first.
Okay, so let's bring in.
Yeah, so we can introduce them, because I like the comparison of what this family is, the lifestyle they are living. So let's go ahead and bring Tom onto our screen if we can. Hi, Tom.
How you doing?
Hi,
Good.
Tom.
And how long have you been involved with Wyndham?
Since Wyndham bought Fairfield back in, I believe, 2010, 2008, when they bought Fairfield. That I've been involved with Wyndham that long.
So long-time owner. And then what we're trying to do is, I hear from a lot of Wyndham people about account suspensions. Then I hear from Andrew with the rental problem. And then I hear from Blue Green. And what we're trying to do is say this is an industry-wide developer engineered problem. So what we're going to do, we're going to introduce two Blue Green people that have phenomenal accounts of the grief that they have been put through. And we have Russell Sullivan, who is here from Louisville. I like to hear reporters that say Louisville.
Yeah.
And then you have when we lived in Kentucky, it was Louisville. So
yeah, correct.
Okay. And then we also have Joan Miller. And Joan is a retired psychological examiner, so she can help us delve into the mindset of timeshare sales agents versus timeshare buyers. Welcome, Joan. And you're Arkansas?
I'm in Arkansas.
You're in Arkansas, and both of you are Blue Green. Now we're going to start with Tom, and we had another guest that's been on before, Gary, that has really done a deep dive on this. He has not been issued a suspension from Wyndham or a cease and desist letter, but he's got way more points than he needs because of being sold this. But Kim, if you could go ahead and let's sit back and I always say, don't watch this before going to bed at night. Go ahead and show. I don't think Russell has seen, maybe not. I don't know if the other two have, but let's see the Queen of Versailles.
Here we are. We're ready to share this with the world. My name is Jackie Siegel, and my husband is David Siegel.
I'm building the largest home in America.
It's now time to finish Versailles. I'm home. Oof, I think I'm going to ruin my shoes. I'd like to show you around a little bit.
If she wants something, she's going to go get it.
One statue is like $30,000. What do you think, Mochi? You like it? The house, it should be a little bit bigger, actually. We bought the land in 2000. A couple years later, we started construction. This house has taken me 20 years to build. I've been through the loss of a child. I value family more than ever. He's heard about our house, girls. Our kids are growing up. We want to live here as a family. Failure is not an option. We don't have much time left.
How many flamingos are you planning on getting at Versailles?
As many as I can get. There's so many chefs in the kitchen that you don't get the perfect recipe. Don't we have a Versace emblem?
Can't put these inside a house. Everything comes out. We have some issues.
I don't think we need to make it more complicated. Is the marble going to crack?
The water's dripping on all your antiques.
Did you guys say grace? Grace. Okay. I don't know what I'm in for. This is one frickin' mess up.
Let me repeat. A veteran who served 24 years overseas working in intelligence, waiting for a lung transplant, that was told he could rent and that they would cancel their contract at any time, according to his report, is now in default with his credit score hit. And Andrew from last week, please take the time to listen to Andrew and Brooke. And they are devastated where after 12 years of service, he is leaving the Air National Guard in large part because of the Wyndham default, sold a 4-bedroom, told that they could rent it out. So let's go ahead and start with Wyndham. Tom, I'm going to, Gary explain to me how the Wyndham rental program works. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I've heard this from others as well. So you have 2 ways to rent points. You can rent points through Wyndham if you use Wyndham approved platforms. One of them is Vacation Shares. And when you go to that link, it doesn't say that it's Wyndham. But if you go to book, the choices are Wyndham. And you book your own reservation, and then Wyndham will turn around and rent it for you, as opposed to Extra Holidays, where you turn in some or all of your points. And the complaint I've heard from Gary, as well as from others, is if you turn in enough points for a week, they receive 40% commission.
Yes.
But then it's not uncommon for them to only rent 4 days and you use 3. Now, in the lawsuit that we are going to be attending the hearing for class certification, there is a declaration filed by Danielle Henderson, who is a former Wyndham executive of 12 years. And she has, I'm sure it's under seal if they were able to get it during discovery, but she talked about inventory manipulation and mentioned that it was one of the pain points, one of 7 pain points by Michael Brown, the CEO of Wyndham. And she has documents, databases, reports, emails, PowerPoints, SOPs, and training content that they improperly allocate and misappropriates inventory that severely restricts inventory. So there's a lot in this lawsuit, and I've followed 11 other lawsuits about poor availability. And who's to say, how would you determine whether those 3 nights that you lost are being rented by Wyndham for promos? So I asked you before you came on, you've been with Wyndham for over 10 years, and you were issued a cease and desist. So tell us a little bit about your experience, what led to this.
Yes. The last time that we sat for a presentation where we actually made a purchase, the sales agent and the manager said, you should be renting your points to defray your cost. That's what we all do. That's how we maintain the amount of points that we all maintain. We rent our points out and use the funding to pay our costs. So we relented. We agreed. The discussion was we can't afford to take on any more debt, which that went in one ear and out the other. So the sales manager told me, he said, I've got a guy. I know a guy. We've heard that one before. He said, this guy will take over renting your points for you and you'll be successful. Well, I can honestly say that person is the only person in the chain that has actually done what we contracted to do. We rented for about a year, probably recovered maybe 1/3 to 40% of our maintenance costs and some of our mortgage, which is quite large, and it made it workable. It made it doable. January, I received a cease and desist letter, and after several tries, made contact with the Wyndham Cares people, and they told us that no, you can't do that. And they said, in fact, if we detect that you're doing it again, we will cancel vacations while people are en route. And they said, that's going to leave you hanging. They said, that's how we get people not to do it. We discussed all the things that we were told and fell on deaf ears. So since then, we're left, of course, with the large mortgage, the large maintenance fees, and no income to defray the costs. But they did refer me to a person who rented, who I found out was a former Wyndham employee. So,
and what we're not just about complaining about timeshares, but we want to be also about proactive solutions. So we've had quite a few happy endings here, and what we're trying to say is, instead of putting all of the burden on the consumer and no accountability for the agents that have caused this, when I reread the report that you sent to me about what happened, it was kind of a chronology. And as I was telling you before the show, that when I wrote a few articles for Jim Cramer of Mad Money, my editor would say, "Don't bury the lead." I still hear his voice all the time. I heard it when I read yours. So what I think, and have you sent that report to Wyndham?
yes.
And it's not uncommon for them not to respond. Did you get a response?
No, it did not.
Okay, so what we need to do is we need that opening paragraph. If you feel, and they have worked with members to reduce or even cancel contracts. You have to have a very credible complaint. But if we resubmit that report, and then ask for, I'm not a lawyer, so, but it seems like it's a pretty logical thing to request, is if you will cancel this last contract, then I won't be in the position where I might have to consider default.
Yes.
So you're just going to make the best of it, or had you considered defaulting, if you care to share?
No, it's coming to a point where we may be forced to default.
So that's some leverage. We had an attorney on, Mike Finn, several weeks ago, who said if you might as well not retain our firm. So I guess that sort of brings Wyndham to the table. And a lot of the people I talk to are seniors, and they have 800 credit scores. There's never been a bill they haven't paid. They may not have a good night's sleep again if there's a bill they don't pay. But there's never been a product like this. So because this is an ongoing situation, it's really, tomorrow we're going to have our protest with 14 prior guests. So we can see how Taya is doing from February 26th. We can take each guest and what is the situation now. So let's do that and revisit that report over the next couple of days.
Sure.
Now let's go ahead and bring our blue-green folks on. We have where I used to live in Kentucky, although I was Southern Kentucky, and you're on the other side of the Mason-Dixon line, I guess, in Louisville. And you bought from, you inherited some points or took them over from a family member.
Correct.
Joan, you are, your husband is deceased. And let's start with Joan. When did you and your husband first become involved with Blue Green?
Probably 20 or 20 plus years ago.
And what led up to your being threatened with suspension or cease and desist?
Well, in actuality, they changed the rules. Used to be able to rent. It was fine. And they changed the rules, and they decided nobody can rent anything. So if it appears that you might be renting, then they just lock your account, period.
But the contract does say you can allow friends and family to use it.
My contracts, all of my first contracts allowed me to rent. Then the last contract, in which a salesperson lied to me big time and talked me into buying again.
For what reason?
It did say no renting.
What was the reason that he convinced you to buy again, and what year was that, and where were you?
It was in 2016 at the Falls Village in Branson. Branson's a hotbed of thievery, but anyway, um, he said that, and this was so stupid of me to fall for it, but I want people to know that this is how bad timeshare people treat people. He said that if we would upgrade and let them change all of my contracts into one contract and let it be moved to the Pirates Lodge in Wisconsin Dells. You can't even book Pirates Lodge, so that was stupid in of itself. But then that he would that I would get the biannual, which is 2 years of points, for free. So I thought, well, they've always told us it didn't matter where our contract was at, so that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. So, and he said, but now you can't say anything about this when you go to sign the papers. You have to not say anything about it or you won't get to do it. So I said, no problem. Well, I felt kind of bad about it, but you know, you just don't know what to do when you get in a mess like that. So anyway, I said no, the salesman didn't promise anything, and I signed it that way. Now I want to be clear about this too. The timeshare contracts now state that we know not to believe anything that sales say. They also state that you cannot sue, that you have to go to arbitration. And I understand that arbitration's stacked against us, and you'd end up paying a fortune if you try to do that. So everything's stacked against us. But anyway, I signed it. I go on about my business, and it takes me, well, I just kept wondering in the back of my mind, but I'm old, I'm busy, I'm babysitting great grands, I don't deal with life very well. So I never did look back at my contract. My fault, I know. But I do not think that there is any reason in the whole wide world that these timeshares should be able to do people the way they do them. It's a setup from the word go. They know what they're doing. They know exactly.
And Gary, Tom had sent me Florida Statute 721.114. No sales agents shall make any statement that shall misrepresent the product. And one of those, the statements that the timeshare industry lobbyists say is timeshare is a highly regulated product. But the process is anything goes. So what we're trying to lobby for is that oral representation clause. I did not rely on oral representations. Instead of being buried in 80 pages of fine print, you get an email about attending a presentation, you get a little appointment card. All they would have to do is put at the bottom, do not rely on oral representations to make your purchase. We would need about $5 million to lobby to find a lawmaker that would be willing to take that on. So now, but that presentation, they didn't talk about renting.
Oh no, yeah. Oh, he told me, yeah. We have a company that will rent for you, and he said, I'll give you the number. I said, I'm not interested in it. So that was the end of that. But yeah, renting was still pushed.
And the Better Business Bureau agrees with you. The Better Business Bureau of St. Louis did a pretty exhaustive report on timeshares. And it's not just the sales agents, it's also the exit companies. And by the way, I forgot to write down his name, but a big cedar, maybe I did write his name down. If I don't, I'll get it next week, where he was busted for prostitution. And this is just recently, so it was sent to me last week or so. And he paid $300 for a prostitute, and he had taken methamphetamine beforehand, and then he told the police that when he was arrested, that he has or it was in the court document, that he has a high profile position at Big Cedar in Branson for working with Blue Green. And then, I can't believe it, but he lied to that police officer. He said that he's only solicited prostitution one time, but the police went through his phone and were able to see quite a few times. So, and we have a report of arrest records for over 24 identity theft, armed robbery with a deadly weapon. It's just forgery. Breaking. There was a quality assurance agent that spent 4 years in jail for burglarizing 7 homes, some while occupied. But let's go ahead, Tom, and you tell us about you were completely unknown to Blue Green until you received these points, and I'm assuming you used them for a while and everything was okay. And tell us how you ended up with a threatening letter about renting.
I think you're talking to Russell.
Oh, Russell, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was sitting there thinking it sounds like my story. Okay. Let's see. My parents started traveling when they both retired back in 2000. And my dad retired April of 2000. Loved to travel, but he had 2 careers, 2 blue chip careers he worked at for 30 plus years. And one of them was also a command sergeant major over 4 states in the Army. And so he retired from those and they started traveling. And they were everywhere all the time. They loved it. And I know he kept what he was getting, acquiring weeks or points, like I wasn't familiar with it. And then at one time I was a part of that when I was married around the same time frame in the 2000s. But anyway, to jump ahead to this story, my dad had it for I know right around 20 years. And he passed away December of 2021. And my mom asked me if I would like to take it over. And first I was like, whoa, but she's like, David spent a fortune on this. You know, I know it anywhere from 50 to 75,000, but she says, I have a feeling after talking to people that has timeshares that he's probably spent more than that, if not double that, because of the 3 or the 4 prices per point. So he had 35,000 points. He was a gold member. I said, well, you know, I can retire pretty soon. And my wife and I, we love to travel. I said, so let me look at it. So we decided, okay, this sounds good. And going by what everybody says, because I've been to the Blue Green timeshares. I've been to some other timeshares that I won't mention in order to get the free stuff that you get as long as you go to the presentations. So,
except it's not free.
Correct.
Everybody that signs a contract pays for it.
Pays for it, correct. So I had been to all kinds of those and upgraded whenever, way back, 20 plus years ago. So I was like, well, I know I won't buy anymore, but I'll look at it. And I was like, okay, so the maintenance fees, okay, it's affordable. So if we're getting this many points transfers to weeks, then yes, we'll take it over. And so that all transpired. That was October of 2022. So in 2023, whenever my wife's a school teacher, we had some time coming up. So we started using it. She said, you realize we won't be able to use all these weeks because I only get so much time. And then like there's nothing even available during June, July, August. She said the red seasons, peak seasons. I said, I understand. And so anyway, we decided to let some friends and family use it. And we were discussed and advised on one of our previous outings, which was Sedona, Arizona in 2023, that yes, you can let people rent out. You can post stuff here. Like he said, look at the board. There's stuff for rent right here. And I said, I don't necessarily have to rent. I just don't want it to go to waste because.
But was that a Blue Green agent, or was that you had mentioned Sedona Pines when we were talking before
this
the
specifically
show?
One, what they had been bought out by, like they were previously Blue Green or RCI, and I think Diamond had taken them over, but I'm not 100%. It's the same company.
I'm 100% sure because I stayed there.
Okay.
Yes, and I knew one of these sales agents that worked there. It was. And that was way, so to put it in perspective, Hilton had first purchased Diamond Resorts, and now Hilton has purchased Blue Green Resorts. So it was the Diamond sales agent that was advising you to rent
Okay.
at that time.
And my mom, because she had already been looking into what are we going to do. My dad has stage 4 cancer. He's not going to pull through. And they were just telling her same thing. She's like, I won't be able to afford these maintenance fees without without income. They're almost $4,000. And he assured them then too, because I remember being there on the phone on speaker. Her little hands were shaking, and she was trying to write down. He said, he said, we can refer you to, I think he mentioned the word third party or whatever, rental places or stuff. And she said, just can some of these members use it and stuff like that. Well, when I was sitting there thinking about renting it out, or I'll say just letting friends and family members use it, and I just emailed what I had found from Paul McLaughlin. So I was looking through there. I was like, okay, so we can rent it from these little notes that I have. And then I went back and found the notes that whenever I was owners, because we had went to a presentation to get a free tour or something like that.
And this is the blue-green presentation.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And so we were told that, yes, help you pay for your maintenance fees. You can let other people use it. You can rent out. You own it. You are deeded. You have a deed to these weeks, these points. And I was looking at the deed while I was looking down. We had these certain weeks, but somehow it transferred into points. And I also forward that to you as well. So we had been told all of this all along. And then as soon as I let someone else use it, I was locked. I received an email from Blue Green from Paul McLaughlin saying that I broke these rules and that I am suspended until further notice. So I tried logging in for close to 6 months, and finally I was like, I don't know what to do about this. So then I looked in to see if I can eventually give it away, call them for them to take it. When I called them, they advised me they would take it off my hands, but it would cost me 1.5 years maintenance fees. So they wanted $6,000 plus some other fees in order to take it off my hands. I said, there's no way I'm going to do that. And then I was also told over the phone, it was never in writing. I was told over the phone that Paul McLaughlin, various different ones at Blue Green, that they are not responsible for their individual sales agents' negligence on what they make and promise. But I want to say they used a different term, like they have LLCs. They represent Blue Green, but Blue Green doesn't write them a paycheck. Something along those lines, that they're independent sales agents, but they are totally not responsible for what they tell me.
Well, Diamond used to say our sales agents are not responsible, but I wrote so many articles with the headline, Vice President says Diamond's sales agents are not Diamond is not responsible for what their sales agents say. So I noticed they changed it. The only thing that matters is what's written in the contract. So
Okay.
It's kind of a sanitized way of saying.
And it's, and like I said, I'm a realtor here in the state of Kentucky, and I've been appalled about all the ethics and how much, like, you can't misrepresent Arizona emissions insurance. Like, if you say something that's wrong or don't say something, but then you have companies like Blue Green. And then I'm hearing stories from my family members about Westgate and a handful of other ones, that the nightmares that they're going through, and they're getting nowhere and they don't know what to do. I'm hearing people's getting their credits hurting them. So now they can't go buy something else. They can't buy a car. They can't buy a house. They can't do anything. And it's all because of a timeshare. And some individuals only let someone in their family use it one time. And because they didn't have the same last name, locked out. So it's very unfortunate.
And our process is to compose in a report, a clear, concise report, what happened. And I think there's only a handful of people that carried it to the distance. But like with Andrew and Brooke, the first step is to submit it to the resort. They may ignore you. Typically, they will not ignore the Attorney General. The Tennessee Attorney General will attempt to mediate. I was manager of Senior versus Crime, which is a special project of Duval County's office, special project of the Florida Attorney General's office, and I had back and forth emails with the supervisor of DBPR that we do not mediate and we cannot force a company to cancel a contract. So basically all they do is they forward it to the company, and the company will respond back, we're not responsible for what our sales agents say or whatever, but you're putting it on the record. So when Carl did a public records request, there were 585 Westgate complaints comprising 4,000 pages. We had to do a GoFundMe because the Florida AG will charge you for it. And she also did a Tennessee one. Out of 585 Westgate complaints, nearly half complained about being pitched the ability to rent. Now, you also, I was on the receiving end of some of your wrathful emails when you were just wanting to vent in that transfer. You found someone to buy it, and that turned out to be an absolute nightmare as well.
Correct. Yes. I found someone that was actually a blue-green owner, and Blue Green puts these stipulations on it, and so whenever you're going through it all, they had a certain amount of time that it would be done, and then it's worded business days, not calendar days, which I had first missed that, but then I was like, okay, business days. So this process started November the 14th of 2023. I thought, right around the end of the year, this will be all done and over with. So end of December comes, nothing. Not even an email or a phone call from Blue Green. First part of January, yes. And then about 10 or 11 days in it, I was going to fly down there because I was so upset over it and go see them face to face. So my wife said, hey, let's like, maybe I'm overlooking something. So then I finally got a hold of someone at Blue Green, and then I called an attorney down there that told me a way to be able to look, or he could see something, whatever. And then he said, yeah, he said, anytime they break the rules, they don't do it in the time frame, nothing happens. There's little bitty small notes or articles that says they're allowed to do anything that they want to do. But if you do it, you're in trouble, you're suspended. So we ended up getting the process wrapped up months later, and now she is the owner of it now. But even when I was suspended after they blocked me out, and I was told I could never, the rest of my life, and even my kids' lives, my grandchildren's lives, I'd never ever be able to use the online rental ever again. And then I couldn't use the RCI exchange because it was done through the Blue Green website, the RCI. So I was limited to do anything. So I did attempt to book something before it was transferred, and I was on hold for about 90 minutes just in order to talk to someone for the rentals. And I was on the phone with them for hours, and everything was booked up. Like, no, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. And I thought, I don't know if they did it on purpose because I can't see it. So I was on the phone for half of a day, and I got absolutely nowhere. So I knew then that they blocked me for life. They could say I can call and make reservations, but there was nothing available. In I could give them any day or any time of the week, anywhere, and there was nothing available. So I just have a hard time believing that they were actually there trying to help me. I believe they were against me. I had footnotes. I sent Paul like professional letters in the event that he did respond on the one or two occasions. It was with one or two words, you broke the rules, or sorry about your luck. He was rude and would not get back with me. I would call him, leave him voice messages. I would send letters to the office, send letters from different emails through Ford Motor Company or through my real estate or something. He would not respond to anything besides, sorry about your luck, you're locked out, you broke the rules. That's all I ever got.
He did respond to me, or somebody did. I emailed, I was so upset with Ashley, with the 5-year-old that had 12 doctors, and Paul McLaughlin only provided 2 friends, 2 family, and her grandma. And they referred her to the exit department, but she only accepted the points knowing the child is so disabled, because grandma checked and said they had the free program. But like you said, when she went to turn it in because she was disgusted, and what happened was she had one of her relatives canceled. So she booked once on Blue Green Marketplace, and somebody responded saying, I want to test Vimeo for $5. So they did, and what she got back was, I knew this was a scam. And it wasn't long after that she received a suspension letter. So I and so what I'm hoping you'll do is just like Carl is resolved his Westgate dispute. We honor non-disclosure, so we don't go into any terms or anything. He's going, when I called him and I texted him, I said, Carl, are you available to meet me in Delaware on Monday? I just texted him yesterday and he said, what time? So to be able to pay it forward, to number one, keep people away from exit scams.
Correct.
The developers act like we're trying to protect our clients from these exit scams, but they don't realize that they are driving people. Now, Joan called me, maybe we've been talking for about a year now, Joan, but you really wanted to help us at TARTA and go forward, and you have become our biggest cheerleader. Someone called me the other day and I said, how did you find TARTA? He said, well, I posted something on a Facebook group and 10 different people told me to reach out to TARTA. So I'm trying to keep up with everything, but I want to thank you for when you see somebody with a problem to refer to our nonprofit through Contact Us. And how many Facebook groups do you think you're on, Joan?
I don't know, 8 or 10. but I'm even on some of the other timeshares. I'm a capital owner too, and I hate that one too.
Oh,
but they're all the same. They're all the same. And I'm on like a general timeshare owners deal. But I read daily, and the troubles are just ridiculous, just ridiculous. I am so angry about all this. And I have even heard that legislatures have been told how bad it is, and in waltz somebody and they change their mind and they won't fix it. This is a major, major problem, and I won't be able to fix it probably, but I'm going to be in there fighting because this is ridiculous.
You mentioned Capital Resorts. Mm-hmm. And the chairman of ARTA Rock, not to be confused with TARTA, the American Resort Development Association, the chairman is Kenneth McKelvey, he's not still an executive with Capital, he's an executive consultant. And he is the one saying timeshare is a highly regulated product and the vast majority of people are happy with their timeshare. But you folks were happy with your timeshare for a long time as well. And I have asked people that are happy to please refrain from judging people that are having a problem. Now, why you had made the statement to me when we were talking earlier before the show that Capital is worse than Blue Green. Now, Kim and I talked to a couple people, and they were the most egregious complaints that even one of them even included the sales agent referring to an exit company trying to extort more money. Both of those disputes have been resolved.
Yep.
But could you please tell me why, what your experience has been with Capital Resorts?
Capital Resorts. Well, you pay a lot up front, which is stupid. I want everybody to know that. Once you've paid a place up front, it's gone. They will tell you it's not gone, but it's gone. And then you have to pay all these fees. Well, Capital, the places that I can afford with my measly little timeshare are not very top notch. But the salespeople are awful. They're the awfulest lying people I've ever laid eyes on.
Wow. Can you give us some examples?
Okay. So I went to Pigeon Forge a couple of years ago. And when I went in there, I said, okay, so I'm not buying anything. I really need to get rid of what I have, but I'm not giving it away. So I'm just stuck, but I'm not buying anything. So he thinks for a minute and he says, I know how you can get some money back. Okay, I'm listening. So he says, now, this is prolonged. This is like a 45-minute period that I can tell it in 30 seconds. He comes back with a $40,000 contract, and he says, if you will sign this, then you will maybe get $6,000 or $7,000 back at any time you want to. Well, the whole thing was a lie. I knew that. I've been around the block a time or two with these timeshares. But there was one in Branson that told me that if I did not started out at 50,500 or whatever, to get mine in a what's the word besides a will, in a trust. If I did not do that, then after I die, my kids could be put in jail if they didn't keep up with all of the bills that came in.
And that's not only inaccurate, but a revocable. I held a certified financial planning certificate. A trust does not protect assets; it avoids probate. But all 50 states have laws that allow an heir to disclaim or disavow an inheritance. Now, a attorney that contributed to one of our articles, I had a problem with Hickory in Mississippi, and she said they will never foreclose if you default. And they hope that you will pass away and your children will not know that there's a period of time after the date of death that they can disclaim it. And that's probably one of so many times I've heard that complaint. But I heard you say earlier that
kids know their parents have a timeshare that has that clause in it. How many people who have the timeshare know that clause is in it? I didn't know about that clause until I met you guys. So
about the heirs inheriting it?
Yeah, that it doesn't die with the owner.
As long as the heirs, though, file out the disclaimer, you have to talk to your attorney in whatever state the person passed away in, then they will do that. And the biggest thing, we had so many complaints with Diamond that if you have a deed, your heirs are responsible, but if you convert to points, they are not. And you had said, I feel so stupid for doing this. I hear that over and over again. There's an AARP staff writer, Doug Shadell, a great book called Outsmarting the Scam Artists that shows how no one is smart enough to outsmart a scam artist. He describes it as ether. 90%
or timeshare scam artists.
He met all scam artists.
They are trained. Their rally training is intense. Like they are trained to zone in on who you might be more comfortable with, and they bring in those people. They are the most trained scam artist organized crime group I've ever seen in my life.
Well, and yet, I want to just emphasize that Joan and Tom, Tom, you were happy for a while until this happened, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See,
the resorts are beautiful places. That's the honey to draw you in. So the resorts are very nice places, run well managed by very thoughtful people. But if you could stay away from the sales office, you would be a happy person.
And if anybody's found it, my experiences, yes, those particular ones are very nice, very well maintained and stuff, but you can't get them. You can't get them rented.
It's difficult. I used to rent mine for my major vacation, the one I just canceled, a year in advance.
Correct.
So
yeah, my dad would set his alarm on midnight sometime in October because of something about how the anniversary went, and he was able to 14 months ahead of time. And he said still there was times he could not get what he wanted because they were already gone within minutes.
Yes.
Those people, that's quick,
So no value for consideration with any of the properties being available to people who are memberships and owners so that they can enjoy them. You could probably go rent them cheaper, and they will be available if you don't use the membership program. You could probably, I'm just saying, you ought to go do that and add that to your arguments that you're preparing, if you've prepared any. I will say this for any of you who have chose to default and, say they do go after and get a judgment against you. I'm not an attorney. This is just through experience. But go to your state laws and look for Homestead Act to protect you so that they can't take everything away from you. Homestead Act will protect you and your personal belongings.
Well, and rarely have I observed in talking to over 3,000 members, the only time that I am aware of a developer pursuing what they call a deficiency judgment. So, Russell, you're a real estate agent. If I have a house worth $300,000 and I default on a $200,000 loan, or maybe the whole 300,000, and they turn around, maybe not likely, but they sell my house for 350,000, they owe me some money. But if you have in the math, I think from Russell at $3 a point, that would have been about $125,000 for 35,000 points. And Blue Green can get those back for $1, and they turn around and sell them for $125,000 tomorrow, then turn around and sue you on the deficiency judgment, the amount of money you owe on the loan.
Right,
And,
which they've already made money on it 2 or 3 times, which should be illegal. Because you probably paid on it on time for quite some time, maybe paid for it in full once, but still owe, and then the maintenance fees go up and the HOA fees go up. But when I look at the value proposition of anything, I add up all of the math. And if you do the math for a timeshare that you're locked into worse than a marriage, you can get out of a marriage a lot easier than you can this. I look at the fact that from what most people have paid for their timeshare, I can go on some of the most luxurious vacations for the rest of my life, pay for the airfare, luxury hotels, cars, actually drivers. Than what people get from their timeshare, having to live in grief, wondering, I'm going to have to book a year in advance. I mean, it makes no sense to me when I can go online and book that same place for a fraction of the price of what you bought it for.
And Kim, here's Destination Timeshare, who is actually going to come out of the chat box in 2 weeks. He's scheduled to be a guest on our show. And he said, they always say if a timeshare salesperson's lips are moving, you know they are lying. But then I've talked to sales agents that say
Bring
buyers.
Bring that poster tomorrow.
They say there's been timeshare sales agents that have said to me, buyers are liars. But I do want to mention, it's very important to know that the only time, and Holiday Inn, I heard of a dozen lawsuits with the same law firm, a law firm in California, Hilton Grand Vacations, I'm sure Westgate, they'll never miss an opportunity to sue anybody for anything, but that's the only time where they sued on the deficiency judgment. And it was more like using Tom and Russell and Joan as pawns, because the law firm didn't charge any more to defend that lawsuit. And they were never successful. But again, it's like the SLAP lawsuit, strategic lawsuit against public protests that Carl was threatened with. The intent is not to win, but to cripple your opponent. You are completely out now, Russell, correct?
Yes. Fortunately, by the grace of God and everyone that helped me, and that's why I try to do what I can to tell people my story. And I was able to, because I know enough about law and paperwork, I was able to have someone that I met through Irene, God bless you, through one of the Facebook sites, one of the blue green sites, that Irene. And there's another gentleman I won't mention because I don't want him to. I'm sure he's busy, but he was able to share with me on how I was able to walk away from the timeshare legally with the paperwork, and it was a very long process for me. I was thankful to do it in less than 3 months, but sometimes it can take 5 or 6 months, although it's supposed to be take 30 business days, not calendar days, from the time that you actually send it to Blue Green, and you get an automatic notification because it's all done through Reporter. And mine took right under 2 months from that time. So it was a whole lot more than 30 business days. But a point being, again, if you don't do something right or to the T in the time frame that's in black and white print, you're punished, penalized. Even if you do what they tell you to do, you're punished and penalized. Blue Green, whoever else, any of them, especially Blue Green, especially Paul McLaughlin, all of them people, they can do whatever they want. There's no penalty to them. You can't even do any kind of litigation against them because there's loopholes around them protecting them. And then in the end, they're automatically not found guilty for some kind of clause that I don't understand law, and you have to pay for their fees, their attorney fees and all that. So they're protected. They are the most protected class that I have ever come across in my entire life.
Destination timeshare. I'm so glad you mentioned this because
Thank you.
our board president is a tax preparer, and no one that has reached out to us has had to pay tax on a forgiven loan. If they do forgive a loan, you get a 1099-C or A abandonment, I think. And someone reached out to a very high official at the IRS because it's such a punitive tax. You're not left with anything of value. If you bought a boat for $10,000 and you default on a $5,000 loan and you keep the boat, you're enriched. But she wrote an article. We have a 1099-C article that she prepared on how to dispute that. And CPAs don't understand timeshares that well. They don't understand the process, but it comes up every tax season.
Well,
I got this 1099-C, and someone will post, yeah, you have to pay that. And I'm like, no, you've got to dispute it.
A lot of people will serve you a 1099-C saying that your forgiven debt is considered an income, and that's why it's issued. It's very irritating. I will say this, Russell, to add to some of what you said, it takes them a half a second to set their fangs into you and suck you dry for eternity, including your family. But if you win a settlement, I don't know about other people, but it has been almost 6 months, and I still haven't seen the check that they promised me and the DA that they would issue. So it's been drawn out. They've tried to play this little game, that little game, do this. Actually cost me a problem with one of my credit cards because of the games they were playing.
Oh, yeah.
So just be careful, because when they say they're going to refund you, they're going to go, oh, we're going to refund your credit card first and refund all the stuff you did on that. Then we're going to refund you over here. Just write the check. It was so simple. And now they finally sent me a check. They shorted it $500 because they don't know how to do math.
Let me interrupt you because we have a minute left, and Kim, next week is going to be a very interesting show because it's going to be, I think, from the courthouse
live
steps with us together. And if Joan and Tom and Russell can rearrange their schedule.
And real quick, I had to pay my maintenance fees that weren't due until end of March of the following year. I had to pay the maintenance fees in order to transfer it.
Yeah, they will suck you dry. That's why I say they're timeshare vampires, the timeshare diaries, right? I'm going to write a book on that with Irene. But everyone, please join us tomorrow with the protest that we're going to be doing. We all want to help each other. Members helping each other is how we win. And join us next week, because Irene and I are going to be live at the courthouse, helping victims and supporting them. And everyone, just take care. Don't listen to the exit companies either. They can be just as dangerous. Let's look out for each other, and let's try to change the laws. And scan the code for TARDA and go to TARDA and support us. All right, everyone. Thank you.
I was about to scan that. Thank you
you
all.
so much.